Originally, this was going to be a big rant about how weird some of the online discourse around the Sonic franchise is, especially regarding the people who feel that the franchise has always been bad and you were wrong and nostalgia blinded for ever liking it, which is just one of the most frustrating things to be told. I realized everything I wanted to say had already been said and much better by Chaomix. I'll link his video below, trust me, it's a good watch. So instead I wanted to take some time to spread some positivity to the games I really enjoy that are often considered bad or at least worse than most Sonic games. I'll be talking about the games in release order, so we're starting out with a little fighting game that could, Sonic the Fighters. I've heard some people complain that it's very simple, and honestly I can totally understand if someone finds it boring. I mean, as a single player experience, it's not required for you to really delve into the mechanics of the game. They didn't really want to make the game too difficult for kids, so that they could be able to beat it. And so if you just have a basic understanding of the game, it's still very beatable. But if you've ever played this with a friend, trust me, it's a good time. And it's not as simple as it seems at first glance. We've got a solid roster of characters from the classic Sonic games, as well as newcomers Bean and Bark, who are super fun. And of course you got your boss characters too. You fight through the roster across multiple stages with incredibly varied environments. And at the end you take down Eggman and his funny mech. You can move left and right, sprint with double tap, do throws, duck, sidestep around people, jump, punch, kick, and block. Blocking certain attacks will use up one of your barriers. You can also use these barriers offensively by activating Hyper Mode, which is comparable to the custom combos in the Street Fighter Alpha series. It opens up more combo paths than normal and lets you really experiment. It's cool because it allows you to engage with the barriers without blocking since honestly doing a single sidestep around your opponent's attack is generally the better option. And I'm personally not a huge fan of dedicated block buttons. I've always preferred just being able to hold back to block. You can also do smash attacks where you slam into the opponent on the ground. There's a great video by Wusstunes on how technical the game can be. I'll link it below, check it out if you want to give this game a try. I also recommend checking out the community edition of the game, which has balance patches and adds in new characters including boss characters into the playable roster. I think Sonic the Fighter slaps. I love the way it looks, the very distinctive polygonal rendering of the characters, colorful environments, fun and stretchy animations. It's a solid game and it deserves more love. And I'm glad to see that more people are playing it than ever thanks to the community edition and the ability to play that version together online using the PS3 emulator. Next up we have the first Sonic game that I ever played for the Genesis, and that game is Sonic 3D Blast. Traveler's Tales worked on this unique Sonic game, which even includes an FMV style cutscene on a cartridge, which is fucking wild. The technical knowledge required to do this is just crazy. As you can tell, the game goes for a similar graphical style to Donkey Kong Country, using pre-rendered 3D assets, pixelated and turned into tiles and sprites for the use on this 16-bit system. And personally, I think it looks really nice, unlike the PAL box art, which gives me nightmares. The music is stellar. It was composed by Jun Senua and Tatsuyuki Maeda, although the later Sega Saturn release had a different soundtrack, which is also good. But the Genesis game is my favorite. Also, shout out to the Sega Saturn special stages. They look so dope. I love the low poly look. The special stages in the Genesis version are kinda whatever, but the 3D effect is impressive. And having my preferred soundtrack and visuals makes this my favorite version of the game. Your main goal is to gather all the flickies, these little birds, and then head to the gold ring. You gotta explore the environments, destroy robots to free the birds, and use whatever power-ups you can find on your way, like invincibility, shields, fire shields, and even this gold shield, which allows you to do the first homing attack in the franchise. Although here it's called Blast Attack. I can understand why people aren't huge fans of this game, but I find it fun. I think it controls pretty well. I don't really struggle with going anywhere. The bosses can feel a little wonky thanks to the perspective, but for the most part I think it handles really well. The controls might be a little bit slippery, but I adjust to it pretty fast. I can see that at the time people were disappointed to get this instead of some sort of competitor to Mario 64 on the Sega Saturn. I mean, getting this odd isometric game on the last generation console was a strange call. That being said, this game is not bad. Its difficulty is fair, it has a fun and unique look, the music goes hard, the controls are much better than a lot of isometric games from this era. It feels good to play. I feel like it gets more hate than it deserves. And the next game I'll be talking about is yet another Traveler's Tales game. That's right, motherfucker, I'm coming out to bat for these devs once again. They did some really cool stuff for the franchise, and they deserve more recognition. Sonic R is not a bad game. Once you learn to lean into turns with L and R, the controls don't feel bad anymore as far as I'm concerned. The game is slippery, but in a way I don't find unwieldy, but more like satisfying to master. It's kind of hard to explain. It's like you have to think of every turn as a drift and balance how much you turn left and right. After a short adjustment period, I started having so much fun with this game. The controls are not what you'd expect when playing as characters running around, but trust me, it's worth learning. If you still don't like it, then hey, at least you gave it a shot. Nothing wrong with differing opinions. Also, the Saturn era low poly Sonic is just so cute. I love it. The environments look super nice, especially Radiant Emerald. The vibes are just immaculate. And the music doesn't even need mentioning, but I will anyway because it goes hard. TJ Davis elevates the OST to official certified jammer status, and the instrumentals are perfect for it. I jam out to this soundtrack often and you can't stop me. This game has a good roster of characters. The only complaint I have is that I feel like 5 stages is a bit too few. Even just one more stage would do so much for this game. But regardless, I think it's a genuinely fun experience and I'm glad I gave it a chance. Once I got used to the controls and figured out how to play it, I adored it. It's the kind of game I love booting up every now and then and just doing some time trials or playing a few rounds for the funsies. You can also play 2-player if you want. Exploring the maps, finding shortcuts, and just vibing to the music and visuals. It's a fun time. Shadow the Hedgehog is a game I wanted so badly as a kid. I remember seeing it on store shelves at my local toy store and thinking it looked so cool. I have a distinct memory of watching the trailer, seeing Sonic fall down in front of Shadow, and it's sort of intentionally framed to make it ambiguous as to whether Shadow took out Sonic or Sonic fell from taking too much damage and Shadow is like fighting alongside him. I remember as a kid having such a strong emotional reaction to Sonic looking so hurt. It's so funny to be looking back. I was like, no, Sonic is dying. Did Shadow do it? Oh my god, I need to know. And well, the answer is up to you and how you play the game. Shadow the Hedgehog released after Sonic Heroes and continues Shadow's story from there. After falling to the earth at the end of Sonic Adventure 2, Shadow is presumed dead. In Heroes, he spends his time wondering if he's the real Shadow or one of Eggman's goofy android Shadow clones. While it turns out he is the real Shadow, he has forgotten everything and is only being reminded of his past through flashes. The game begins with an alien army called the Black Arms invading Earth, and its leader Black Doom tells Shadow it's time to fulfill his promise and help them. He doesn't know what Black Doom is talking about, but he's told he needs to gather the Chaos Emeralds, and he figures it's his best shot at figuring out who he really is. And so we jump into the game. Visually, it's similar to Sonic Heroes, but you only play as Shadow here, and personally I think it controls a lot better. You can pick up many different guns, both human-made ones or alien ones, and they're decently fun to use, especially the Gatling guns and other crazy wacky stuff like that. You can also use melee weapons, but I don't like them as much. There are vehicles that you can drive and mech walkers to control. These are usually optional, or something you have to use for a short moment. During each mission you'll have multiple objectives, giving you 2 to 3 ways of finishing each stage. Every mission has a dark and hero route, and most also have neutral routes, which just involve getting to the end of the stage and that's all. The dark routes will have you either helping the Black Arms and have Black Doom follow you in his eye form, or helping Eggman. The hero side has a lot of different characters that need your help. Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, Rouge, Omega, even the Chaotix are here, which is great. There's 10 endings to unlock. One thing I think sucks is that you need to get all 10 endings to see the true ending and play the final stage and boss fight, which means you need to beat the game 10 times. Now, the different paths take you to different stages, so the playthroughs will be varied, but you will be playing through most of the stages a few times, especially the first one, Westopolis. If you take your time and get a few endings here and there and don't do it all in one go, it's still fun, but it can get a little draining. The different objectives can be varied, either destroy something, chase something, kill all of a certain kind of enemy, find one or several items or people in a stage, etc. The only stage I really can't stand is Lost Impact, specifically the hero mission, where you try to take out all of the artificial chaos on the space colony Ark. This mission is long, slow, and some of the chaos are well hidden. It's such a slog to get through, but thankfully you don't need to play this mission. You can get all the endings by choosing different paths around it. The boss fights are mostly fun. I never really got frustrated by any of them. They're not super special, but they're overall solid. This is the first game where the 4Kids actors took over as Sonic X was starting to air, and while a lot of people say Jason Griffith started out a bit rough, I disagree. I like how he sounds here. I agree that he got better over time, but I never thought he sounded bad or anything. He voices both Sonic and Shadow here, and I love his performance as Shadow. He has so many iconic lines like,
"Where's that damn 4th Chaos Emerald?"
and
"A Chaos Emerald? You've got to be kidding me, guys. This is like taking candy from a baby, which is fine by me.
A lot of people seem to think that Shadow is saying he's fine with taking candy from a baby, but what he's really saying is that this particular Chaos Emerald was so easy to get, and that's fine by him. Still, it's a fucking hilarious line. I mean, it's so goofy. I strongly recommend playing the modded version of the game, Shadow the Hedgehog Reloaded. It has a lot of improvements and tweaks, and you only need to get 3 endings to get the true ending, which is much better. I also recommend going for some of the neutral endings to start. The stages are the most straightforward, and it plays like most other 3D Sonic games. Get to the end and have fun doing it. While the way the story is delivered is a little strange, overall it's a good time, and the fact that this story gets a continuation with Shadow Generations just makes me so happy. Seeing Black Doom again is just yes. Black Doom is such an over-the-top bad guy. He's so goofy and fun, and I love how he adds to Shadow's backstory. While it's got its rough edges, I still think Shadow the Hedgehog is a great game. Moving on to the Wii, we got the Sonic Storybook duology. I gotta be honest though, I can't really get into Secret Rings gameplay. I just wanted to mention how much I adore the story of it, and the friendship between Sonic and Shara, being pulled into the Arabian Nights and exploring myths and legends, and it's got a really touching ending too. However, Sonic and the Black Knight is a game I really like. It was released a year and a half after Secret Rings. The story begins with a cloaked figure being chased. Through magic, Sonic is brought to the kingdom of Camelot, ruled by King Arthur, who has become the evil Black Knight. After a short battle, Sonic is told he's not strong enough yet, and he's whisked away. While talking to the mage, Merlina, about how to stop Arthur, she tells us we need the legendary sword Caliburn, otherwise we can't take down the king. King Arthur's legendary scabbard grants him immortality, and we need to find some way to deal with that. After some short training missions, we head to the Sword in the Stone, which turns out is sentient, and it's got an attitude, and it doesn't really accept Sonic as a knight, not yet anyways. Sonic and Caliburn argue while Merlina seems saddened by something that she doesn't want to elaborate on, holding a flower and wondering why things wither away. Going from Secret Rings to Black Knight is really interesting because they feel very different. While Secret Rings have you control Sonic by tilting the Wiimote side to side, this game uses a joystick on the nunchuck, and instead of thrusting the Wiimote forward to do a homing attack, which I hated, the motion controls are now relegated to swinging your sword, the Caliburn, to attack. And it feels pretty good. I especially love jumping and attacking, spinning the sword in the air. You can also crouch down, which will block incoming attacks. So clearly Black Knight is fairly combat focused, but for the most part the levels are your typical 3D Sonic experience. There are a lot of side missions you gotta play, and these can be kind of a mixed bag. I really don't care for the ones where you need to give money to the villagers. You run around, collect rings, and when you come across a villager with something to sell, you have to play a quick time event to do a successful transaction and buy their item. And if you fail, that villager won't sell you anything anymore. I guess Sonic said something fucked up to them, I don't know. If you engage with this weird obscure morality system in the game, there's an upgrade that is super hard to unlock that will make it so that you won't need to do the quick time event when talking to villagers, which is just bizarre. Anyways, most side missions are simpler stuff, like defeating a certain number of enemies. These are fine. Sometimes it can drag down the pace a bit, but they're not bad. I like the gameplay overall, and the main stages are a good time. They're fast paced and feature a lot of cool set pieces. There will be spoilers ahead because I really want to gush about the story in full, so skip to this point if you don't want to hear that. Just like in Secret Rings, we encounter characters in the world who look like people Sonic knows, like the Knights of the Round Table who look like Shadow, Blaze, and Knuckles, or the town Smithy who looks like Tails. When you meet him, there's even a chill, medieval rendition of Believe in Myself from Sonic Adventure playing in the background, which is a nice touch. On our way back from the Smithy, we come across Shadow, or Lancelot of the Round Table. He has been sent by Arthur to take us out, and we get this silly exchange.
What shall it be? Will you abandon your sword and flee? Sounds good to me. Ooh.
After a decently fun duel with some jamming fucking music, we continue onwards, and then we get to the Lady of the Lake, where we're told she can help us deal with King Arthur, as she was the one who granted him his powers back when he was a noble and kind ruler. However, she's worried that whoever defeats King Arthur and gets the scabbard will succumb to the same fate, so she wants us to accomplish 3 tasks: free imprisoned villagers, show compassion to someone in need, and defeat the Knights of the Underworld. So we set out on our quest. On our way, we encounter Sir Gawain of the Round Table. After another battle with more jamming music, we get this exchange.
Only death can remove this stain upon my honor.
Give me a break! What's up with all this drama?
A knight who fails their king is unfit to live.
Isn't there more to being a knight than just serving a king? Huh?
After meeting up with the Lady of the Lake, she acknowledges us as a true knight and tells us to gather the sacred swords, the weapons carried by the Knights of the Round Table, to defeat Arthur. So we go to the last of the three knights, Percival. After defeating her, she's about to let herself fall into the lava below, but Sonic saves her. Reuniting with Merlina, she thanks us for all we've done. So, we head into the castle to take on King Arthur himself. While the fight is just alright, man, the music is so fucking good, it's not even funny. The soundtrack in general is just fantastic, and this particular song, along with the main theme, Night of the Wind, are the best the game has to offer as far as I'm concerned. After defeating Arthur, his body vanishes and only the scabbard is left. We return to Merlina and she tells us,
"There was never any King Arthur."
Huh?
Well done. And thank you, Sonic. With this scabbard, I can erase my grandfather's greatest mistake.
What?
I shall make this kingdom eternal.
Sonic, get back!
the castle crumbles as they escape. The other knights don't know what to do, but Sonic makes them understand that even without a king, they still need to fight for what's right. With help from the Lady of the Lake, we're told where to go next. Everyone spreads out as we explore the lands to find where to place our sacred swords. Once done, it'll form a barrier around the castle. As soon as we accomplish that, Sonic heads inside to face Merlina.
This was to be our ideal world, but it will not last. King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table will end in ruin. The King Arthur my grandfather Merlin created led to nothing but mistakes. But I can succeed with the power of the scabbard, creating a kingdom that never ends.
What good is a world that goes on forever?
My sorrow at its ruin runs deeper than the depths of the underworld. Do you not understand?
No, and I don't want to!
Sonic seems to be no match. Caliburn is broken in half. All seems lost, but Sonic keeps trying. A light shines brightly and the other knights are told to bring forth their sacred swords. And Sonic gets one of the sickest and also goofiest transformations ever as he gets kitted out in golden armor and Caliburn is reborn as Excalibur. They argue while they fight as their ideals clash like swords. And fighting her monstrous form in the void is such a cool set piece. We finally take her down.
Every world has its end. I know that's kind of sad, but that's why we gotta live life to the fullest in the time we have. At least, that's what I figure.
It is also revealed that Sonic was the true King Arthur all along, but it's time for him to head back to our world.
But man, would have thought I was the real King Arthur. Huh.
That's the lamest excuse ever! You just forgot about our date!
No, it's true, I tell ya! Yikes! No! Amy, wait! Put down that hammer!
Hey! You get back here, Sonic!
I love this story, genuinely. Sonic is just so fun throughout it. He's kind, sweet, cocky, funny, everything you want. This era of Sonic might be my favorite from a character writing standpoint. From Unleashed to Secret Rings to Black Knight, it's all so good. So many moments that just make me feel or smile. It's great stuff. And I really enjoy the message of Black Knight. Things have to come to an end, you've got to move on. It's simple, but it's nice and it's told very well. And you can understand where Merlina is coming from as she's seen the future many times. She knows all too well how everything is going to end, and it's filled her with sorrow. She just wants what she thinks is best for everyone. It's good stuff, I dig it. Sonic and the Black Knight is a good time overall. I could see why someone wouldn't be a huge fan of the core gameplay, but I enjoy it. Having a jamming soundtrack, great story, and extra content to unlock, it's totally worth giving a shot. I want to end this video with showing my personal tier list of Sonic games. This one isn't meant to be about where I think these games should go objectively differently. It's just how much I enjoy them, which is why I named the tiers the way I did. And yes, I do love Sonic Unleashed so much it's close at the top for me and you can't stop me. I know some people don't care for the Hedgehog stuff, but I think it's a great time. It's like a fun beat 'em up. And the rest of the game is a stellar 3D Sonic experience. Incredibly fast paced, it looks beautiful, the story is amazing, the characters are wonderful, I just love it so much. I just had to gush a little bit about it. But that game isn't really considered to be bad, so that's why I didn't include it in this video. And that's all I got for you this time. Thanks for watching.